You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a blue belt who trains and owns Lift Train Fight MMA located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy C.
Hey, Lamar, thanks for having me. So excited to get down and dirty with it and talk about, jiu-jitsu, boxing, MMA, whatever
Man,
we want to do.
we're gonna talk about it all, man, because this is
Yeah.
an interview that's supposed to happen in this first season, but we're
Yes.
not gonna talk about it. But
We're here now.
but we're here now. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's great to have you, brother.
Mhm.
So if you want to go ahead and formally introduce yourself again, by all means,
Yeah.
and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Sure. My name is Tommy C. Like you said, I'm a blue belt in the gi. I have been since 2011 when I switched to no gi. And so I've been doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and boxing and Muay Thai. I'm just training for MMA since about 2009, and then formally started training in the gi. Did that for a couple of years up until about 2011. But I recently started my own fightwear company. I design clothing, supplements, accessories, fight gear. It's called Live Train Fight, ltfclothes.com. And, I've trained at a lot of different gyms, but I kind of have my own way of training. And the reason I do that is by day, my job, my actual 9 to 5, I'm a learning scientist. So my background is instructional systems design and technology. And I've designed training programs for K-12 schools, coding boot camps, the United States military, and Fortune 500 companies all over the country. And so I wanted to apply that methodology to training fighters. And so that's kind of how my journey has unfolded. And a Live Train Fight got started because I was selling the clothes and the accessories, and people started messaging me saying, "Hey, I want to train with you. I want to work out with you." And lo and behold, there's a commercial gym 12 miles from my house. I live out in the country. There's really no other MMA or jiu-jitsu around me, and they have mats and heavy bags. And so, God kind of put two and two together where I had access to the space, people who wanted to train, and a background as a teacher. And so I just started going for it and working with guys. And we're a few months into being our own gym, and so we're still kind of figuring out how affiliations and all that are going to work. But it's going really well. We're making progress. I coached 2 guys who just fought in the Golden Gloves boxing tournament alongside my boxing coach, Cheyenne McKinney. And, we made it to the semifinals. And so I'm really loving this journey as a coach, and not really into it for the money or anything. It's just my passion. I'm a teacher and a trainer, and I absolutely love the sport. I love jiu-jitsu. Very much a no-gi guy. Wrestler. I've been wrestling for many years too, as long as I've done anything else. And I'm a licensed professional wrestler here in Oklahoma. So you're like, what kind of wrestling is that what I think it is? Yes, WWE style, going through tables, working a gimmick. I do that. I do stunts for movies.
Wow.
I just worked on 7 Cemeteries with Danny Trejo. And I live out here in Osage County, where they're shooting Killers of the Flower Moon, Reservation Dogs, and all these shows. I live here on the tribal land. Many of my friends are natives in those shows, and I'm in some of them too. We just filmed Tulsa Kings out here, so who knows where I'm going to be popping up. All I'm going to say is you might be seeing my ugly face, sliding by in the background here and there. But it's been quite a journey. And we are a different breed out here in Oklahoma, Lamar.
I'm gonna have to try to find you, because I've watched Reservation Dogs. I think like half of the first season.
I'm not in the first season,
Okay.
but I'll just say there was a casting call last week, and
Okay.
may have been there. And some of my very dear friends are tribal members, and I actually live on the tribal land in Osage, so we'll see what happens. They tend to draw from the local flora and fauna, like myself, who live out here, as the inspiration for these stories. And so while I haven't been in Reservation Dogs yet, some of the things that have happened on the show, I'm like, I know where that came from and what street
Oh, gotcha.
and who, we're all
Right.
friends, we all know each other. And it's mainly one production company that's producing all these, called Thunderbird Productions. So, and there's not a lot of people in Oklahoma. So if you're an actor, actually, it's a great place to be. Because, you have opportunities that you're not going to get in LA. I'm in LA all the time for other work, and it's just it's a much smaller. I don't mean to say that I'm mediocre, but I'm saying I'd be nothing anywhere else. But out here, it's like, hey, I'm it,
So you're that guy in Oklahoma, huh?
Yeah, me and all 12 other people out here. They're like, where are we gonna find a big white boy stunt man who can look scary, and it's like it's me and 6 other, but we got some. There's a real good martial artist that I did 7 cemeteries with, named Thomas Longacre, and in Thunder Kick, Jitsu and MMA. He's a black belt under Brandon Quick, and so I train with him sometimes. I kick it with all my friends and train all over the place with anyone I can. Live down the road from a UFC fighter named Jimmy Flick. He's a Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And so there's a lot of good guys out here, and it's a great place to train and live and just kind of, go on your journey. So that's what I'm doing, man.
Nice, man. Nice. So, man, so you being so busy, man, how do you find balance in, wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and now you having your own, fight camp in school, man? So,
well, I used to have hair. No, really though, the reason I can do it is that in my day job, I work remotely. I have my own little, I own some rural land outside the city. And first off, I'm an extremely disciplined person. I wake up, I do CrossFit every morning, or every afternoon, at least once a day. I do like at a CrossFit gym. And that is like my baseline. I have to do that. And I take my fitness very seriously in my own training. And I'm used to working 100 hours a week. Everyone in my family is an entrepreneur. My uncle started garbage companies and scaled them. So did my dad. And we were all people who came up and started with nothing and built our own businesses. And everyone in my family, 100 hours a week is a slow week for us. And so from the time I was 12, I would go out to my uncle's garbage company in Atlanta. They'd throw me on the back of a truck at 3 a.m. and work me till 6 p.m. And I was running routes, working on trucks, working in the back office. So I don't know how to do anything but work, and I cannot sit still. And so that's probably my most toxic trait, is that I am a workaholic. I do too much, and I do stretch myself thin. But I've tried to have my hobbies feed one another.
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like for example, I never meant to go out and compete in all these different combat sports. I just started doing MMA and training everything around the same time, and I picked up competency pretty well and got to the point where I'm like, hey, I can do it all together in MMA, or I can split it back and do it individually. Regarding the wrestling, though, my dad was a 2-time state wrestling champion catch wrestler, and he started showing me stuff when I was a kid. And so I grew up in a wrestling family, and then he was trained for pro wrestling by Ray Gunkel, who was on Live Atlanta Wrestling and one of the old school catch guys back before it became WWE style, when we had like real catch wrestling matches. And so he trained my dad, and my dad was a very good wrestler, and he was going to turn pro and do pro wrestling. Unfortunately, his trainer, Ray, basically raised him. He died in the ring of a heart attack in the middle of a wrestling match. My dad.
Oh, wow.
My dad was there. And so after that, my dad walked away from the sport. And so but it's in me, just like it was in him. And so I can't not do it. And he tried to keep me away from it most of my life. He taught me to wrestle growing up. And so that helped me jumpstart my grappling. But the wrestling I learned, it's kind of fun. It's catch now, like Josh Barnett and all that. And I didn't know that's what it was at the time until the first time I went and did like folk style or MMA and was like, oh yeah, hey, that's a hammerlock. My dad taught me that, But I used to get in trouble because I thought when I did high school wrestling, yeah, we can do all these face locks and stuff. And the coaches looked at me like, you gotta, sir.
He said no.
No. So, but I was never a great athlete. I actually got more athletic as I got older. And so now I feel like I'm starting to, actually come into my prime. I actually only turned pro as a fighter last year.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
so I just started fighting professionally. That's been very much focused on boxing. And I'm going to say that selfishly because I'm entirely about the money. Look, I'm just going to keep it real. I want to get paid, and I have the opportunity and everything lined up for me to get on some boxing cards and do that. And I got the headline a card and be main event, streaming, all that. And it was a wonderful experience. And I'm really open to doing anything, but that's what it is. I'm 33. I don't love getting hit in the face and beat up, and I've had every injury from jiu-jitsu. I've torn my rotator cuff twice, I've blown out my knee, had hernias, same shit we all go through. but in terms of like, I've had a lot. The question I get the most is, why have you trained so long and not competed that much? It's I actually, my athleticism went like this as I got older. And so I'm just now really hitting my prime with, being big and strong and doing what I need to do. And then secondly, all my fighter friends, I watch their careers, and I'm like, they're not making a lot of them, aren't making the kind of money where it would be worth it for me to jump in until now when I got an opportunity that paid. And it just happened to be on the boxing side. And so I've been kind of running with that. But I do jiu-jitsu every day. And it's 100% part of my routine, part of our training at Live, Train, Fight. And, I find a way to balance it all because I sleep a little bit faster than most people. To make a very roundabout story short, I am a rambler. You have to keep me on track. But but that's it, man. I really don't sleep as much as I should. I sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. If that, I'm on day. For most people, they're having a nice day. For me, it's about day 2.5. So I'll get some sleep tonight, and that'll be that. I am a first responder as well. I'm a firefighter. And I'm a rural firefighter. So that's even more fun. We fight wildfires. And so that's where I've been all day, is working on our equipment and working on getting more funding. I live in a very poor rural community out here, and that's not a negative thing. They're wonderful people, and we've just not had the opportunities to get state funding and assistance like other areas do. And so that's one of the reasons I like to come on these podcasts and talk about where I live and how special people are out here, and what we're trying to do. Because I think combat sports is something that brings people together. It's good for kids. It keeps them off drugs. It keeps them off the street. And I just see the way, like food. The only other thing I describe it to is like food, Lamar. That's what, man, people love to watch a good fight, whether it's jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, it doesn't really matter. People love fighting like they love to eat, so, and everyone like food. Everyone's got an opinion.
Right. Exactly.
And it ain't always good and it ain't always delicious, but everyone's got one.
Dude, for me, it's like, especially when we go, watch fights, and there'll be like, people at other tables around us, and everyone I hang out with, we all train jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
So we'll be watching the fight, and then the people behind us be like, "Oh man, they're this whole grappling and cuddling and everything else." But everybody at our table, we're losing our minds because we're like, "No, get through this and do that and da 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 da."
Yeah.
And it was funny. One guy, he was standing next to me. He's like, "Man, you guys actually sound like y'all know what y'all talk about." I was like, "Yeah, because we do."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, how so?" I was like, "Okay." At this time, I was still a purple belt. I was like, I'm a purple belt. That guy's a brown belt. That guy's a brown belt. Those two down there are blue belts. This guy is this, and that. Like, we all train. He was like, oh. He's like, oh shit. Okay. I was like, yeah. So we love it, man. We love it.
I love it. Man, there's nothing like going to Buffalo Wild Wings and they're like, just stand up. Just stand up. And I was like, well, if it was that easy, they would, I promise. I mean, maybe some maybe some of the heavyweights, but for most of us, that ain't gonna happen, man. That ain't gonna happen. There's nothing more. Grappling is like being able to use the force, and it translates the concepts on the ground that we learn in jiu-jitsu translate to other phases of fighting too, like boxing and wrestling. The distance management, the timing, setting up techniques, the games you play. and that's always been the most interesting thing for me is how much, it all flows together in a really special way. And that feeling of being a complete idiot in one phase of fighting, like, everyone remembers their first day of jiu-jitsu, getting smashed, you're sweating, you're
beat to shit.
You're getting beat to shit. Like, you're just, it is the ego killer. It doesn't matter how big and bad you are. The second you come in, and have some 145-pound guy pin you down, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do about it. And that you either are about it or you're not. Right then and there, you're either gonna stick with it or you're not. And I give that list. I humble people with that a little bit sometimes. My rank, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing with jiu-jitsu and the belts, because I do expert no gi. And then I can only compete in blue belt in the gi because no one's ever thrown a purple belt at me. But, I roll with black belts all day, and I train for MMA and for pro MMA with black belts all the time. And, there's some guys, they're blue belts who can murder me. And then they're black belts who, I'll give them, respect. It is what it is. They're a little bit older or something, and not always. Or a lot of folks they'll have like 10 times more jiu-jitsu knowledge, but I'm a fit 230. Who wrestles. So that's another thing. And I got heel hooks.
Right.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, especially no-gi players. Heel hooks are like, that thing. So
my man, and in catch wrestling, we have different leg lock systems too. We have crab rides, we have toe holds. We set up knee bars and stuff differently. We do a lot of like we'll crush people from standing. We'll finish them standing and stuff like that. Or you'll leg lace somebody and crank their leg. They don't care about reaping. So we do a lot of that in pro wrestling too. And pro wrestling is a real martial art. If you go to wrestling school, you actually learn the moves. We just learn to hit them just like how you flow roll. That's I'm gonna break the rules of pro wrestling a little bit. It's flow rolling. That's what you're doing in pro wrestling. And anyone who's who's a grappler and watches it can see what it is and appreciate the athleticism that goes into that performance. But whether you're a stunt worker or a pro wrestler or anyone who's in that space, you have to really know your stuff in order to dial it back enough not to hurt that other guy, or or make it work the way it's supposed to look in front of the crowd. That's a whole nother piece of psychology that if you don't understand grappling, you can't create grappling. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot there, and it's fun bringing that stuff into jiu-jitsu. That's a lot of my game too. I love putting people in the Boston Crab, and there ain't nothing worse than getting tapped with a sharpshooter. I promise. I don't do it in the gi. I don't do it in the gi, but it is fun. It's some funny stuff, but a lot of more. What's cool I wanted to mention about pro wrestling is we're bringing a lot more jiu-jitsu into that too. So you're seeing a lot more arm bars, triangles, kimuras. And even if you listen to the WWE announcers, they're calling it a lot more with a lot more, let's say, education in combat sports, because the average viewer knows 10 times more about fighting and martial arts and jiu-jitsu now than they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And to me, that's amazing to see, because, I don't have a high rank or anything, but I've been around it. My first jiu-jitsu lesson was in like 2005, with like Carlos Machado. I'm from Dallas. I grew up there. And so I grew up around Chuck Norris and Carlos Machado and Saxon Janjira. And all my homies from Dallas know me. I've been around. I started karate when I was 5, and so I did when I was growing up. My dad was no way in hell he was going to have me pay for jiu-jitsu, because he's like, this is just wrestling. I'll teach you to wrestle. Screw that, So they threw me in karate. And I'm kind of glad I did it. I went to a good karate school, and I actually learned some decent striking and timing. But it was still like, I'll never forget the first time I tried to use my karate at school and got my ass beat by the kid who knew how to box, because he wasn't all about that side kick. It's like, oh, I'm going to do my side kick. Ow, he hit me in the face,
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute. We don't punch to the face in karate. Hold on now. And then you learn. But it's an amazing thing. And I've been able to train with some really cool guys kind of behind the scenes in the sport who I respect and love. And I've made all my best friends doing this. And so I've never been a big time competitor. I'm a martial artist, and if I can't do something perfectly, I don't want to compete it. So now I feel like I'm at the point where I'm ready to really start competing more. It's just getting my body and everything, and getting my gym set up, because like I said, I'm out where I'm at. It's literally like there's Tulsa, which is probably about a 40-minute drive for me. I'm in Osage County, which is the largest county in Oklahoma. I live on a beautiful lake. I am surrounded by forest and trees and cows and all of that. And then we have a rural gym nearby. And, so I'm just kind of holding it down. And we got a boxing coach there who built the gym. And then, some local wrestlers and MMA fighters who know about the place and kind of show up there. And we kind of just basically we just have these open mats, and they're amazing. We have dudes from all over who would come and fight, club it out, here and there. So that's how I kind of trained for my pro debut, was with some of these dudes who are absolutely incredibly talented and have been around it for a while. So, it's just it's a blessing to kind of just bring this out here to the country, and now get some more actual jiu-jitsu going. And I like hawking my uniforms and my gear, so that's fun.
That got to be fun, right?
Yeah. Actually, I started it. So here's the deal. I thought, well, if I'm gonna be fighting now, and I'm gonna need sponsors, why would I go out and represent something I don't own myself? I'm not gonna make any real money off that.
Right.
I don't care about making $50 to put someone's logo on my short. So I want to go out there and promote something I have equity in. So I've been doing graphic design and media production for many years in my day jobs as a trainer and learning scientist, because I produce all the training videos. It's really boring, but if you've seen some of my greatest hits, like how not to use a forklift, how not to burn a pizza at Domino's, you always wonder who makes those terrible PowerPoint presentations that I have to sit through when I start a new job. Guess what? That's me, the crazy guy in the woods.
Oh no!
Every OSHA training video, my man. I am the all that boring HR crap. That's me.
You're the culprit.
I'm the culprit. I am the reason for the season. I have a lot of friends in the military who have seen my work. If you've ever been through in the military, what's called a safety briefing, I'm like the IRS. I have when people find out the things that I produce, they're like, the money's great. It's actually really pretty well paying industry. But everyone hates you, they're like, oh, it's your fault. I'll give you an example of one of my, for Domino's Pizza, we set up a system where the oven, if you burn the pizza, it passive aggressively trains you how to cook a pizza properly, right? So the problem, so basically I go in as a consultant to a company. I say, what's your problem? And it's basically, we have a person who's doing X and we want them to do Y. And my job is to change that behavior, whether they're cooking pizzas or whether they're in the infantry trying to learn how to shoot. My job is to break down and do a task analysis of the behavior, the stimulus, the response, and just use operant conditioning, use reinforcers, whatever, to change that behavior, and then work backwards to design a program to reproduce it in other people. So again, it's really fun being in my field, and then now taking that and applying it to jiu-jitsu, But before I ramble about that, Domino's, basically every time they burn a pizza, it tracks it. It sends it to a database where we have their cell phone and we have a unique identifier for them. And then we send the video to their phone, and it says, hey, bitch, you burn this damn pizza one more time, we're telling it to your manager. First, we send a video, then we send an email. Third time, it goes to your manager, and it's automatically tracked. And then we know what pizza you burned in what oven. We're doing that kind of. That's how we're using AI and training to don't sue me, Domino's. I don't know if they still use it, but I've worked for done it for a few fast food places. And that's just one example. And right.
That's hilarious.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's great though. But so if you get a nice undercooked pizza from Domino's that's still like half cold. Like that's probably my, one of my fault. So again, I live out in the woods because I don't want people coming after me with pitchforks, you know. But my dream, Lamar, is that I get to do the training for the IRS, because then that's when I'm going to hit back at the evil empire. Like I'm really gonna.
God.
It's like Meth Gator versus Cocaine Bear. It's like death by death by PowerPoint versus death by taxes. And so it's like, let me at them. I'll make them sit through 300 slides. I will, and I'm gonna lots of text on every slide, and you got to read it all, and none of it's voiced over.
Say none of it.
No, actually, no. I changed my mind. All of it's voiced over. You can't skip nothing. Can't skip. No continue button.
Oh my goodness.
You got to listen to it, and he's gonna talk slow. He's gonna talk
so slow, so mono.
Yeah, it's completely monotone. I really, it's like art. Like I've got to make sure there's only 1 to 2 pictures per course, all text, monotone voice. And nothing to skip. And there's going to be a long test, real long.
Evil.
I know.
So evil.
I know. So that's kind of what I do. But I was actually at one point when I graduated with my bachelor's was in secondary education, and I was a middle school teacher. Believe it or not, they allowed me to work with children. And I was I taught ESL, English, and then but I'm certified for every subject in the state of Texas as a K-12 teacher, and
Nice.
So I've always been a teacher, and we work crazy hours. We do anything for our kids, and that kind of, translated into martial arts because it's what I've always loved since I was a kid. I was a bullied, nerdy kid who was picked on, and I like every other martial artist. I was 5 and walked into a karate school and said, "Teach me how to be like Bruce Lee."
Right.
And that is where the journey started. And no matter where I've lived, whether it's in the city or rural, and I've basically, I've moved almost every year of my life since I was 17. So I've never been able to put down roots at like one jiu-jitsu school long enough to really go through the whole journey. So I kind of feel like I start over, and just as I'm kind of getting into a groove with a new place, I got to move again for work.
Move again, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm the new guy again. And then finally now I'm just like, I'm starting my own thing. It's a lot of times there has been jiu-jitsu. So where I haven't had jiu-jitsu, I've found an MMA fighter. I found if there's boxing, I'll do boxing. Done taekwondo, judo, whatever is within my vicinity, I'll train it because I've never done a martial art. I didn't get something out of, and I don't have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but over the years, I've done a lot of boxing. I've got this big shiny belt from winning the Chronic Grudge Heavyweight Championship, and that's a tough man promotion in Oklahoma. And then I do have a black belt in karate and a black belt in Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, which, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu is a different thing. That was before BJJ. And,
right, before BJJ, right.
It's more like, ooh. I'll just say this. I can roll. Actually, you know what I got to say? I would not be doing what I'm doing without Aikido, because that is how I learned how to job. And if you're a pro wrestler or a stuntman, you know what that is. That's when someone throws a punch. Nobody can flop better than me.
Oversell it.
Oh, I can sell that shit like a ShamWow. I'm Billy May selling that Sham. I will sell you so hard. You can have noodle arms. You can be the weakest looking, worst. I will sell it like, you hit me like Mike Tyson. It's awesome. So like Jake Paul, if you're listening and you need to fix another fight, I'm your boy. I will flop in the 4th round, $500,000. Man, you can pay me off like every other bum you boxed, and I will do it.
I will sell it. Sell it.
I'll backflip.
Right.
So that's I think the money's what ruins it for me. That's kind of why with my business model is I will train anybody. I don't own the gym that I train at, so I make it we're a club, and then if you want to kick money my way, buy my stuff, buy my merch, and that's it. And that allows me to build a nationwide network of people. And then now I sponsor fighters all over the country. And so that's just getting started. So my first guy is Braxton Smith. He's a PFC heavyweight champion. He's defending his title tonight. he is, he is a very large and powerful man, and he kind of lives the life. And so he was the first guy who really caught my eye. We're both huge horror fans, and I got to plug him. He's got a podcast too called the Coming Soon Podcast. It's about horror. And just a brilliant man. And so I'm real proud to be, a part of his journey. And can't wait to see what he does tonight. All 200. I think he walks around at 280 with abs. Yeah, he's a genetic freak.
He's a thick boy.
He's a thick boy. My God, he's the guys like him are the reason that I'm not going to do heavyweight anymore. I'm waddling myself down to 205.
Man, oh, dude, that's been the bane of my existence. Like every time I end up like competing, the last 2 times I competed, I've always been the smallest guy in the division. It's like, always.
Oh, I know, because I compete. I've done I do absolute and ultra heavy. I was a big. So like a lot of my friends from Dallas remember me. I was a big fat guy. And then I slimmed down and all this muscle is what was underneath. But I was 250 pounds since the 6th grade. But like you, I'm not a real tall guy. I'm like 5'11" on a good day.
Yeah, on a good day.
And then when they book me, if they book me for wrestling, it goes up about a few inches. The ring's far away. They can't tell. It depends. If I'm on a date, I'm 6'1". If it's a fight, I'm 6'2". If it's a movie, 6'3".
What's an inch or two, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who's counting?
Who's counting, right?
Same thing with weight. No, but I feel like so you're the short ultra heavy. So that's got to mean you're really good because you survived that gump. There's nothing worse than being the smallest guy in the big man division.
Man, that was terrible. That was so terrible. And
I
was like, never again.
So where did you start and where are you now? Like what weight did you start ultra heavy and then you go down to heavy or what?
Yeah, so when I competed in ultra heavy, I was 247.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So So when I checked last time, like now I'm back down to like 222.
Okay. Oh, you're smaller than me now. Good job.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get down to that 200, maybe 180, but
yeah. Oh, you can do it. I'm doing it. I have at one point in my life, it was a mystical time. There was like the year back when I got my blue belt in the gi, I made it all the way down to like 170. And I was just cut and I didn't have all this. But here's the reason I actually blew up and like gained like almost 100 pounds over the next 3 years after that, because I did it in a very unhealthy way. I was starving myself. I was cutting weight like a wrestler. I was trying to do like, what I did. And when I was younger and just eating like 300 calories a day. And like, I got down, but it destroyed my metabolism. So I tore my rotator cuff. And after that, my weight exploded because I couldn't train. And I still have problems with the shoulder to this day. And I think that it's really impacted what I've been able to do competitively. Because funny story, I was doing omoplatas with a brand new white belt, which is the most dangerous thing in all of combat sports. You already know. I don't even have to tell the rest of the story. You guys already know.
You said omoplata and white belt. I'm like, oh no.
You already know. Little sucker decided to roll. And it did not tell me he was going to roll. And I was, I was like, what? And he just went for it. And he had it all the way in. I had no chance. So he just gripped it and ripped it. And, they've done a lot for my shoulder. I went in and had surgery and they tightened it up. And it came loose again as soon as I went back to rolling. It came loose again. And now, like, for the last 10 years, you can see the difference in size between my shoulders. I feel like Quasimodo or something like that. So I lift a lot. Yeah, but it's really screwed me up. But that's why I've actually spent many years now lifting and trying to build up mass in my deltoids and my traps, just to put some meat here to protect the shoulder. And so that I can roll. And so now I feel like I'm in a pretty good place with it. But I won't lie, I'm in pain every day. And that's
Of
why
course.
I'm trying to get a reward from all this, because I'm like, man, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts, my knees hurt. I'm gonna at least try to do what I can, you know.
Make some
Um,
type of gain from this,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and even if it's not just money, but just having any kind of impact,
Yeah.
outside of the mainstream way that people contribute to the sport, because I think there's just better people than me doing that. And I'm never going to be Gordon Ryan, but I can teach. I can teach some people out here in the country, or show people how to box, or my shoot box style, which is a pretty all right for just like straight up fighting. And I love it, and as long as people are interested, and I'm always going to do it. And selfishly, right now, I'm just trying to train up people to be my sparring partners, because I want my biggest compliment is if I can train someone to kick my butt.
Right, you're doing something right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I have a guy right now who's kind of the first person I've put a lot of work into. He's a stunt worker too. He's a rapper. He's really talented. He worked on all these shows, and he's in them a lot more than me. And so he's getting into mixed martial arts now, and so we're training together every day, like 2 or 3 hours, and just rolling and sparring and doing. I've trained him in a different way though, because I'm not separating the grappling or the striking. He's learning to, he's learning when the guy shoots to sprawl and brawl, when he's learning to throw his hands and then go straight into the wrestling and the clinching and taking down and ground and pound. And so I've integrated all of it, and I teach it all together. And a lot of schools don't do that. Like, I know when I started, I had to go to a jiu-jitsu place, then a Muay Thai place, and then try to like put it together for MMA. But it's straight up learning MMA as its own system, and he's just learning striking, wrestling, grappling. And I'm teaching him, okay, I approach it like we're in the standing phase at long range, medium range, short range, in the pocket,
Right.
And then same thing. Okay, once we've closed that gap and we're in grappling range, now here's kind of our dirty boxing range, our takedown range, and then I teach the throws, the takedowns, and then okay, now we're on the ground. How do we approach the ground game when strikes involved? And I think that's a thing, that I think should really be addressed more. And like, I see a lot of schools taking jiu-jitsu in very different directions, which are all beautiful, but it's almost like a different martial art now when you have like gi sport, IBJJF style jiu-jitsu versus no gi on the ground, MMA oriented. Like, hey, this guy's throwing bombs at me, and I've got to be able to deal with that. And I think, some schools address that more than others, but it's definitely been an awakening for all of us. I know when I go train in the gi, like, which I try to do every now and then, and I did put some gi. I have put some gi time in, and I can hang. I'm not going to submit black belts in the gi, but I'm not going to lose either. Like I know, like, I've done some judo. I have some throws. I have some gi. I know my gi chokes, like, but definitely not like, I don't know, like a lot of these crazy, I'm not a worm guard player. I'm not going to berimbolo, I'm going to try to get to my feet. But I think it's really interesting the different ways we approach the same problems, across these different disciplines. Like, I know, like, guard players, like the position when they're in guard, that's their home. They're happy. They want to be there. Whereas for me as a striker, I'm practicing my jiu-jitsu every day so that I can counter it and not get taken down. And if I'm taken down, how do I not get submitted and get back to my feet so I can run my fade?
Right.
And so I have to put just as much work into it though, so I can defend it. And I think that, and I think that speaks volumes to how freaking effective jiu-jitsu is, because you see the posts now, people are like, I don't see jiu-jitsu in MMA anymore, it's not that effective. I'm like, listen, every fighter, every UFC fighter, or not UFC, any mixed martial artist who makes it to the pro level has to be good enough to defend against a black belt trying to take their head off, take their arm off, rip their leg out. And if not, they will be exposed very quickly. And so most of them are really, really good at jiu-jitsu just so they can even compete in the sport.
And that's a conversation I've had so many times, where people that want to throw that, jiu-jitsu is not effective in the street and whatnot. And we always get to these conversations like, it just because I'm doing jiu-jitsu,
right,
does that make me more dangerous or less dangerous? Because if I can stand with you, I'll stand and bang with you. But usually not all street fights are going to be standing.
Yep.
is going to go to the ground at some
Uh-huh.
point.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
I get to the ground, do you think that's going to make me less dangerous or more dangerous? I can tie you up and still use my hands to beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
I don't need
Yeah.
my hands to hold you down.
Right.
So-
I'm way more scared. I am way more afraid if someone can hold me down and I can't
Yeah.
do it. Even if you know, even if that's the thing, like you don't have to have black belt. That what I think makes jiu-jitsu so effective is you don't have to do it for 10 years to be effective. You don't have to know every move. If you have a good top game and you can hold someone down in side control for 30 seconds, that's long enough
Yeah.
to do whatever you need to do. Like and like you said, yeah, it's like I can still hit you, you know. And I think it definitely makes you more dangerous. I think it makes you less likely to get in a fight because you know you have the confidence to do what you need to do, and you're like, this isn't. I don't need to prove myself. I think a lot of fist fights are pissing contests. Like you said, a lot of fights are going to go to the ground because. Okay, I'll make an example. In boxing, I was just doing the Golden Gloves, and our team, our coach, our head coach, her name is Cheyenne McKinney. She's an amazing coach. Very, very, very skilled boxer, and while she did a fantastic job. And one of the things we worked on was what to do when they freaking grapple you, because there's a lot of grappling in boxing. You just have the referee pulling everyone apart, and anyone who says grappling isn't important, I was like, okay, what would happen in a boxing match if that ref wasn't there pulling them apart every time they tied up? It would turn into a grappling match, and one of these dudes will fall over. They're going to trip. They're going to get fall. There's going to be a takedown, and you have to literally force them apart. And so the homework lesson I give is go watch like amateur boxing, pro boxing. Go watch them and count how many times they tie up and start swimming and start tying up, and how many times that rep in just any given fight. It happens more than it doesn't, because it's natural for us to grapple. We're 99% chimpanzee. That's what we do. It's natural for us to throw. It's natural for us to wrestle. That's just something we do as animals. And that's your instinct when you close that gap, you
want to grab. Yeah. You want to grab, you want to hold on. You want to try to prevent from being punched. And
Yep. And anyone who thinks that's not going to happen just has never been in a fight or is just completely, I'm like, you're just ignorant,
You're just oblivious to to what's real.
Yeah. And guess what? When that does it, again, reality, when that does happen and you fall over or you trip or you fall back, whatever, or hey, even if you are striking, you take one on the chin and you fall on your back. Guess what? You better know, if you know how to play guard, you know how to defend yourself and make a negative into a positive. That's going to give you a massive advantage, especially when you know that other person doesn't know anything. So it's like, to me, it's like having an insurance policy. I don't have to be the best grappler in the world, but I know what to do when I get there, how to survive, and not only that, that's just the practicality of it, but the lifestyle of actually training and it's something you can do all the time, and it's like physical chess. It's a fantastic sport in its own right. Like that, the health benefits and the mental benefits alone make it worth doing. Whether your flavor is gi or no gi, it's a great way to compete safely as we age. I love boxing, but I don't want to keep. I think I don't see myself going very long in it at this age, because I would like to be able to speak when I'm 50. At least, I don't have very many brain cells right now. I don't want to risk the ones I have left.
I know, right?
More than I have to. And like, just, I can say going through my camp, I went through a 6-week camp for a pro fight, and I had COVID and pneumonia during the camp, and I had COVID and pneumonia during the fight. I held my breath to get through the medicals. It was brutal. But just the amount of abuse, you take physically, by the time you get to the fight, you're so beat up, you're like, dang, I got beat up more in camp than I did by the opponent. And so in one way, it was good, because as sick as I was sparring with some really talented big, mean heavyweights, with good boxing. And so I felt they were actually way tougher than the dude I actually fought. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to him. He's great. He was 3-2. He was a badass. But like, one of these dudes is legit genetic monster who's undefeated, and he was Division I wrestler as well as boxer. And he's just he's like a shredded, he's over 200 pounds and shredded, and a personal trainer full time and too. So like he's just a monster. So like again, and then I've sparred with a Golden Gloves champion, and he just is just a badass, just a total badass. So hats off to all the homies. They know who they are. But I don't want to go through that again soon. Like I had to recover, and I think I can do it again at the end of this year. But like it's a cycle. And right now, in the interim, I was like, well, I got to set up my own training again. And so I started making my t-shirts, and I love design. And so I just, Lift Train Fight happened. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start sponsoring a few guys. And then people know me and want to train with me. And so I was like, all right, well, let's start practicing. And then it's all just kind of, come together. And I do my thug jitsu and my, my dirty boxing and kickboxing, and we make it work, man. But I've been really lucky. I've met some amazing people. I went to Japan in high school and as an exchange student. So over there, I got exposed to, Kyokushin karate and pro wrestling and puroresu, as we say in Japanese. And I learned the language, and even got to go to a sumo stable, work out and meet some sumo wrestlers.
That's dope,
dude.
That's dope.
I don't know if you ever seen how sumos train. They ain't no joke.
I haven't seen anything like recently, but I remember like when they used to have like the documentaries on sumo wrestlers.
They're a monster. Like you see the big ones, and you can't fathom. They're flabby, but the amount of muscle underneath that, and the fact that the endurance they have because of to move that much mass all the time. And sumo is an actual martial art that includes striking, throwing. It is a real martial art. There's a lot of, they have the mawashi, the belt, you're throwing, you're doing a lot of the same throws that you see in judo, like seoinage, ogoshi, that it's all legal. And, if any part of your body touches the doyo, you're down and you're out. And then if you're pushed out, you lose. But the smaller sumo wrestlers, the younger rikishi, they are they're jacked. Like they're jacked.
I love sumo wrestling.
I do too.
I love sumo wrestling, dude.
So for you, maybe we're the same. But once I started doing jujitsu, it made me appreciate like other grappling and like other styles. And now I really enjoy watching I love watching judo and sumo and all of that, man.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan, man. But
yeah. So what made you start jiu-jitsu? How did you get into it?
I guess you want to say I kind of stumbled upon it. Kind of make a long story short, I guess my brother now, who's a brother to me now, kind of introduced me to the sport. We used to work at the same mall, and he came in one day and he was like nursing his arm, and I asked him about it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I train jujitsu," and I was like, "Oh, all right." I heard the name before, never really trained or like really looked into it until after me and him talked, and I just like really started to learn a little bit more about it. And then once I started training, man, that was it. I was hooked. I've been hooked ever since, man.
So I love it. It's amazing. It's an amazing art. I love it so much.
Love the art, love the philosophy behind it.
The
community, it's a lot, man. It's a lot that makes me just continuously to fall in love with this martial art.
So what's your style? Are you gi, no gi? Are you a guard player? What's your game, brother?
So my school, we train mainly gi. But I've been really falling in love with no gi. So every chance I get, we do open mats, I'll do no gi. After class, I'll row, I'll do no gi. So we were like the heavy smash style jujitsu. So
top
a lot of top game pressure.
Love that.
So I guess you want to say more like well-rounded, because we kind of we practice everything.
Is it are y'all straight jujitsu, or do y'all do like other kind of classes too?
We straight jujitsu.
Okay, so you're good. You're very focused. I like that.
And
That's good.
and we also like my instructor, he loves the martial art behind jujitsu, but we touch on
Good.
everything. We touch on jujitsu, obviously,
Hmm.
judo,
Yeah.
Krav
Oh,
Maga, everything,
I love that.
striking. So we're well rounded. So even in our promotion test,
Yeah.
we have to do self defense. So we have to practice, against someone
Yeah.
who's throwing strikes or two people
Hmm.
throwing strikes at you. So
Yeah.
because
I
that's his
love it.
philosophy. Like if you can't do it in here, you can't do it in the street.
I think that's fantastic, and those are the kind of coaches that I've enjoyed training with the most. And I've trained in I'm a no-gi guy, but most of the schools I've trained at have been gi schools, so I haven't really had a choice. And so I'm like, God dang it, fine, I'll wear the jammies. But I spent over a year doing judo, just doing straight judo under some very good high-level judoka, and I love that sport too. It's just I'm just better at no-gi. I like no-gi. I'm a wrestler. And so like for M and I'm right now, like my focus is MMA. And like I feel like there's people like you out there and other folks who are so good in the gi. And around me, there are a lot, like in the greater Tulsa area, are a lot of great gi schools. But there's nowhere like if you're an MMA fighter that you can learn like the MMA specific stuff, like unless you go to one of those schools. And some of them have fight teams, but I've always been like, man, I was like, this is my one little niche that I can kind of do that, is my thing. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other better places to learn the gi. Like, why would I try to do that? But I can teach you how to jab and do a blast double and pass
Hey,
that guard and get to your, ground and pound and then hit a nice arm bar or choke. Like I'm better at, the sum of me is better than my individual parts. My individual parts are very basic. What I'm an idiot, but what I'm good at is is putting it together and doing the basics right. I'm a really good checkers player. Don't ask me to play chess, but but I do it. And I think it's great though that you have a sensei who's a real martial artist, because that's where we all come from. And I feel
yeah.
like when it gets away from that, when people just play for like advantage points, like you're not really, I don't think that's what jujitsu is about. That's not what the Gracie's intended with it.
Yeah.
It's a self-defense system. And what made it amazing back in the 90s is that it truly encompassed all the things you're talking about. You go back and watch the Gracie DVDs and it's like, it's defending against strikes. It's defending against street scenarios. Like that was like part of Blue Belt,
Mm-hmm.
like, and you had to do that. And, at least to a degree that you could competently take the fight to the ground against someone who was striking at you. And those are skills that I think some folks don't really prioritize, but
And you see that a
mm-hmm,
lot, especially
mm-hmm.
when you got combat jujitsu now, where
Yes,
people are tapping to strikes
the
and
slap, yeah,
that's that open palm slap to the face. It's like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh my
man,
God,
it's so brutal. But I love it though. It's
yeah,
pure. It's a
it's a
pure. It's more
yep.
pure than like just tournament style jujitsu. So
I'm very interested. Well, I that is something I'm interested in. There's not anyone, I don't know anywhere. I'm sure like people message me after this and tell me where I can do it. And hopefully they will. I am very interested in the combat jujitsu. It's something I think I could actually do pretty well in. I I trained and was invited to try out for a wonderful new sport called Dana White's Slap Fight League. And they booked me for it. I was gonna fly out there, but once I figured out what it really was, I was like, there ain't no way.
hey,
Um,
oh my
but
god,
there ain't no way I'm getting slapped for $2,000. Well, here's the way. Like, here's how it went down. They're good people, God bless them. But they called it, when I was getting the paperwork and everything, they called it power striking. And
yeah.
I thought, all right, cool. It's gonna be like, and it said it's a new striking promotion by the Zuffa brothers. And I was like, cool, Zuffa Boxing's finally here. Or, it's gonna be bare knuckle, like BKFC, like that makes sense. I didn't know it was dang stand on a line and have someone swat you in the face like 20. And I saw the contract and I was like, man, this is some really, just to try out. It was like, we'll fly you out, we'll put you in a hotel, we'll cover your medical expenses, we'll give you some money. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it was not, and then it wasn't a bad amount for like just sparring a few rounds training. And I was like, I'm used to that in boxing, like you're usually making a few rounds to a fight, like a few grand a fight per round. Like it's not a cheap sport. So I thought, okay, I was kind of interested, and then I actually agreed to it. And like I was booking my dang flight to Vegas. They were like, they were about to book my ticket, and they were making my jersey and everything. And then one of my friends was like, yo, you know what this is, right? And I'm like, no. And then he sent me the video of the one of the other slap fight things. And it's funny, the guy who hosts that is Jason Jones, is a pro wrestler also, and who we're in the same circles. But man, once I saw what it was, and I was like, hold on, I gotta stand there and let some freak of nature,
just haul off and smack your beard off your face.
Yeah, and I'm like, no,
I don't get to hit back.
No, I was like, how hard I've worked to look this good, yeah, no, I've got head movement for a reason, because I don't want my face beat up. Like,
right.
I'm like, yo, I actually had my nose rearranged a couple times, but so I was like, hell no. Once I saw what it was, and then I was like, all right, well, who's coming? And it's like, I see the list of dudes they're bringing out there, and I was like, well, hold on, these guys got more consonants than vowels in their name, like we've got some Igors, we've got some Akhmanobadovs. I'm like, I ain't about that. No.
I mean, because it was a Russian sport.
Yeah. Yeah, so, of course Russians would make that up. Like they're like Sambo wasn't hard enough.
I know, right? Like yeah, God, let's take this a step further. Let's slap each other.
They're like, they got judo, and they're like, to be good. Yeah, let's add leg lock, and punching too, right. like
It's like it's like a hold my beer moment. Like, like, oh, you want to do that? Hold my beer.
Listen. God bless the fighters who do it. I understand. Like it's an opportunity. It's cool. Like I have nothing but respect for them. It's just there ain't no way.
How do you train for that?
Actually, I thought about it, and I did. I thought, how would I? If I thought about it, I did mentally, because as a training professional, because I'm always training things I don't really know that well. Like every job I have is different. My job is to be a learning scientist. So I go through this discovery process like a detective. So let's say again, your dominoes, your sum for. I come in and I do what's called a needs assessment and a task analysis, where I go, all right, what is the skill? What are the components of the skill? How do I measure them? And so I'm defining like KPIs and like literally breaking that stuff down. And so I did that for this sport, and I looked at it and I go, okay, like first off, there aren't the variables that influence success and having a successful outcome in winning the match are very hard to define. Like in MMA, it's clearly like, okay, someone with superior grappling has a higher percentage of winning. Or like, for example, if you can get more takedowns in a round, that's a good KPI we can measure, because if you can get 2 or 3 takedowns, you'll probably win a round. Like they're in jiu-jitsu, like we know the success rate of certain submissions. But with the slap fight thing, like it's completely like how do you train someone's chin? And so there is technique. Like there is a technique to generating power. And so it's like, I figured out, like if you basically, I call it farm to table, if you bend your hips and you take your hand all the way back, and you take it diagonally for like you're throwing a dang, like you're throwing a discus, and bring it all the way around, you can get a lot more power than, of course, if you're standing right here. So, but it's terrifying because you're not really slapping them.
It's almost like a clubbing.
You are clubbing them. Like an ADCC when you're clubbing, like that's the technique. Like, so this is how I got my hand. Yeah. And then I'm trying to hit right here against your jaw, and I get to line that up perfectly, and then I get to go swan, a 2, and then I get to unleash all the power in my body as hard as I can and connect right there. And you're not small and I'm not small. And when I get to land a perfect power shot, I'm like, boy, this ain't good. And so it's not that one lands, like, because in boxing or MMA, you get a few clean shots, the ref's gonna stop it. It's like these guys are doing 20 rounds of this.
Yeah.
You're taking a career's worth of damage in one fight, man.
Yeah.
Like my gosh. I
It's
mean,
like you can't block, you can't flinch.
right.
You move,
Right.
you get hit again. So it's like
Every time this is how I think about fighting. And I don't know if this is just because I'm old and cynical, but every time I see this, I'm like, I see like money signs going the other end. You know what I mean? And like
they get
like,
the coins knocked out of you.
Yeah, I'm literally like Mario. I'm getting the coins, and I'm like, all right, this is how I decide what I'm gonna do. Whether it's a wrestling event, I'm like, all right, how many of these am I gonna take for how much is gonna come back in to gas me back up, right? And the math was not on my side with that. Like there was just no universe where I'm like, man, I saw that. I was like, this is not like gonna go well. And so I personally, as a learning professional and a learning scientist, did not see a path to victory where I could influence enough variables to give myself a reasonable chance at winning. Like that is just my professional opinion. I don't see it as a sport where you can win. It is a lot of the variables come down to the other guy and him just being smaller than you, or you getting lucky. I think, it is like Russian roulette. You are truly at the mercy of the gods with that one. And to me, I am not a gambler. Like I am someone who I will train for 10 years before my debut. And then I literally debuted in a title fight and won a title. Like that was my pro debut. And, I no one ever thought that would happen.
Wow.
But I did it, and because I'm a perfectionist and I'm like, I'm not going to be, if I'm going to put my ass on the line, I ain't going to write a check I can't cash.
Right. You gotta be worth it.
You gotta be worth the risk, bro. But yeah, man, the slap fight thing, I don't think, I love bare knuckle. I think that's awesome. Like you get torn up a little bit, but I think that's a legitimate thing. And that's why it's going really well. But again, you can only do all that stuff for so long. And I think the power of jiu-jitsu is it's accessible to people who are like recreational martial artists who just want something they can do that's effective. That's not a waste of their time. But a lot of us have 9 to 5s where we don't want to go with black eyes and broken noses. And I mean, shoot, that still happens. You take a flying knee on belly,
Yeah, take an elbow, take an elbow from Americana. Yeah,
the cross face, the old crippler cross face. But all being said, it is safer, especially in the gi where you're using that for leverage more than the other guy. I think it's a great thing, man. But yeah, that was a wild adventure. So I call me yellow, call me a chicken. I was invited to the Slap Fight League, and I said no. And then we'll see what's next. I'm talking to a few promotions now and about fighting this summer. And so I have some great options on the table, and for MMA, and I'm gonna do what I did with boxing. I'm not doing amateur. I'm just gonna turn straight pro and fight some real guys, and hopefully surprise some folks, because my biggest weapon right now is is that people don't really know what I can do. It's
right.
The people who've rolled with me in jiu-jitsu around here recently, they know. But another thing I like to do, whenever I go visit a new gym, I put on like a white belt and I act like I don't know shit. I just totally drop, because I don't care how you treat people who are good. I want to see how you treat somebody who doesn't know anything, and are you going to give them a good experience? And then I'll dial it up. The other reason I do that, and I know it's like, I don't know. I don't want to like piss people off, and I don't want to deal with egos. And, I don't know. Like, I just, I'll wear a blue belt if I'm in the gi, but like, I'm just very humble about it, but I don't really, I'm not like going to roll competitively, I have especially in Nogi, I'm like, yeah, show me how to do an Americana. Show me this choke. I mean, I've done this a million times, but I want to see, can you teach it? How do you teach it to somebody new? Because that will tell me if you're a good instructor or not, I've met black belts who couldn't teach at all. Like they were great grapplers, but they were like, I'm like, oh my God, you should not be running an academy. Like what you're doing is going to make people quit sport, back in the day, if you knew anything, please teach,
Right. But you'd be able to just open up a school and teach. But
yeah, now I'm like, the bar is a little higher now. And you have to know, like, hey, you can't, you can't hit the kids you can't hit them with bamboo sticks if they don't do it right, and like you can't, you can't just, well, okay. This was my whole thing. Like when I started, there wasn't like structured. It wasn't like structured. It was like, okay, here's a move. Cool. Now roll for the next 90 minutes, and like, that's it. Like I think my very first class, I was rolling with other white belts, which is the most dangerous thing on earth. But that was it, and so like I wasn't that I was terrible like everybody else, but I had some other martial arts experience, and I'd done some wrestling, and so like I held my own, but yeah, it was not pretty, and I think that's on the one hand, I love the trial by fire because like 6 months of surviving as a white belt, just getting smashed by blues and purples and browns, just a soul beat out of you, like you're like, man, I survived. You get so good defensively that eventually you start getting to dominant positions, and then all of a sudden you start catching stuff, and you're like, oh, hey, I can do this, but like it's a process. And so now I've seen like the whole spectrum of gyms where some where like they barely roll at all, or it's optional. It's now optional at the end of class. You can just you can just peace out and you don't have to roll at all. Or if you want to stay, you can. And then somewhere it's mandatory, and it's again like, here's a move, cool. Now roll for 90 minutes and don't leave. You have to do every round, and no sitting out, or don't be a baby. And I don't know what's right or what's wrong. I would say as a learning scientist, though,
gotta find what works for you.
You got to find what works for you, and choose your own journey. And really, I would say, are you going to be a competitor, or are you going to do this recreationally? And I'm someone who is completely understanding on both fronts. Gotcha. I'm cool with it. I would do fine. There's a way to train jiu-jitsu for everybody.
Oh yeah, you just gotta
find your own vibe.
Find it.
For me, it's
find your own vibe.
For me, it's I like to put everything together and just cut to the heart of it and do it the MMA way. And my friends are MMA guys, and it's a beautiful thing for us because we're tired of, oh God, I got to pay for. At least for me, the problem I'm trying to solve is I'm like, man, I'm tired of paying 4 gym memberships. I'm someone who specifically, like, I want to do MMA and compete in that. Not even recreationally. I got straight up like, we got 3 months. Here's what we're gonna do.
They just want to get into the fire.
I want to get into the fire, and so like the way I kind of bring people into that is I'm like, all right, well, I'm almost like, it's like getting chunked into a gang, like, hey, all right, we're gonna do some rounds. And we're going to see, and we're going to do some shoebox rounds where we're going to box, we're going to wrestle. And you see, can you take a hit? Can you take a takedown? Okay. And not to be mean about it, but let's see if this is the sport for you now before you invest 6 months, a year of your life into thinking you're going to be a fighter. Because, I've seen some examples where, they blow smoke up their ass because they're getting the guy's ass because he's getting them paying that $120 a month. And it's like, all right, like you're gonna, they slow roll them, and then the guy trains for a year and finds out, oh, hey, I actually don't like this at all. Like, I don't want to be a fighter, but so I'm kind of like, find out what you're made of now, in the nicest way that I can, just like that first day of jiu-jitsu, and I'll also say I've met guys who were black belts in jiu-jitsu who came over to MMA and found out that it was not the sport for them either, and they were great grapplers, but they did not want none of that getting clobbered,
right
from the ground. It's a different thing. I have a 77-inch reach, and
jeez,
I am a orangutan. In weightlifting, I've always been a deadlifter because my arms are longer than my legs, and so I can hit around your guard,
right?
I can be on my knees and just, it doesn't matter. I don't even have to pat, and so. And I think everyone should have that lesson once. I'm not saying like, I'd say like as a training professional, like if you are for self-defense purposes, hey, get your friend, have him put on boxing gloves and you play guard and just deal with that a little bit, like you don't have to go do a combat jiu-jitsu match, but deal with that and see, hey, what does my dang flower sweep is it the greatest idea when this dude's dropping elbows on my head, you know, and doesn't have a gi on? And then even going further than MMA, like, hey, guess what? On the street, we've got headbutts, we've got 12-6 elbows, you know, you got biting. One of my craziest stories, bro, is I was doing Aikido, man, and like it was one of those Aikido guys who thought he was freaking Steven Seagal and said, you know, we were ironically like, you know, sharing the mats with the wrestling team, and he said, no one can take me down.
Oh God.
I can Aikido flip someone who does a double leg. And I'm like, bet, let's find out. You know. And so like he didn't know I'd wrestled. And you know, I hit him with a blast double, and that sucker started trying to friggin' gouge me in the eyes. And immediately, as soon as his Aikido, like it never had like the Aikido range. Like I've heard other people say this, but like Aikido is the most idealized version of jiu-jitsu. Like if we all had like super speed and sensitivity and could like John Wick everything, like that's what jiu-jitsu would be like. Like as soon as the guy is moving like this, you're like redirecting and flipping him. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, sure, in theory, a human can move that way, but no human alive has ever been able to pull it off. And so like, you know, and so this dude was wearing the skirt, man. Like when I say it was like he was in the skirt, man, and like the skirt was flying and you know, he was going down, and so he didn't know what to do. And so it was eye gouge and fish hook city. And so he was trying to here and here, trying to let my jaw, you know. And but the interesting thing is that didn't help. I still took his ass down. And like, so that whole mythical argument that, oh, well, if this guy tries to jiu-jitsu me, I'm going to bite him or I'm going to eye gouge him. I'm like, he did. And he still tried.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. It just pissed me off. So I was thinking the whole time, I was like, when this hits the mat, I'm going to beat the hell out of this guy. I didn't, because I wouldn't do that. You know, like he learned, he saw what it was, and his students saw what it was. And that was my last day of Aikido with them. And then I literally, you know, waddled over and joined the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club and the wrestling club, and was like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna go train with these guys now. But I always loved the fantasy of traditional martial arts, and I'm still from that era where, you know, it was still like early internet. Like a lot of us thought that stuff worked because there wasn't when people weren't out there exposing it that much yet, other than like some of the stuff we saw at the Gracies. But people still believed in the gimmick, you know, and I did too, because you want to, you know, you love the idea that I can learn some secret move that doesn't make me have to be in shape or go through all this dang rolling all the time. It'd be so great, you know. Wouldn't it be great, Lamar? If I was just about to say, it'd be great if there was any way that we can just make jiu-jitsu so easy that I don't have to put my body through hours and hours of beating up just to, you know. Yep. So, but if it was that easy, everyone would have a black belt. But that's right, everyone would have a black belt. Hell, you know, shit. Getting a blue belt was still harder for me than anything I've ever done, because I came from I got my blue belt from a guy named Kurt Gibson. He was Alliance black belt under Alan Muller, and man, I went through it because he was an MMA fighter too, and so we all did jiu-jitsu and MMA to get like both. Like it was jiu-jitsu class, then MMA. And he was a tough son of a bitch, and I respect the hell out of him. And he would not promote anybody past white belt if you didn't also practice the MMA side. Like you didn't have to fight, but you had to be competent, and you had to be good, and you had to spar too. Because he wanted kind of like your sensei. He wanted well-rounded guys.
I was about to say that's a part of our curriculum. Like you know, you have to not only show up. We're not saying you have to go out there and kill yourself in a roll, but you still have to roll. You know, you still have to show that you can apply these techniques that you're learning
under pressure. You have to pressure test it, or it's not going to work.
Not going to work.
And same thing with striking. You know, I've been working with more. Boxing is kind of making a little resurgence. A lot more MMA guys are interested in coming back to boxing. And it's all, and just like your first day of jiu-jitsu, even if you've done like MMA striking, coming to a pure boxing with high-level boxers is just like your first day of jiu-jitsu, because it's a different sport, it's a different range. We know how to fight to the sport. There's point systems, there's style. You have to have a certain style. There's etiquette. So a lot of guys think, oh well, I did like Muay Thai, so I'm gonna come in and be able to like just hang with these dudes. I'm like no, these are black belts in punching and evading and avoiding getting punched. You know, like you think you're gonna hit this guy and he's going to be, it's like, he's never going to be in front of you. He's going to be down here, and he's going to be hitting you from angles that you didn't know existed, because you don't do it in MMA. Because you don't have to worry about grappling. You don't have to worry about kicking. You don't have to worry about, Queensberry rules are a different thing. So I can live in your armpit and hit you here all day, and then I can swim right around and do the same thing if you watch like Mike Tyson. And so, but it always is a humbling experience. And I think what's great about jiu-jitsu is it opens the door for you to embrace the suck, and the suck you embrace in jiu-jitsu. Once you embrace that suck, it's easier to embrace other sucks like boxing or doing your taxes or working a shitty job. It's so you just get better at dealing with crap and hard, you become more anti-fragile, and then that translates to all these other benefits in your life. So I feel like, the suck is what makes jiu-jitsu amazing. And I don't think everyone should have to like compete, but I would recommend like you should roll regularly to build that anti-fragility and
you gotta get out there and get your hands dirty.
Yeah, that's it, man. You gotta get your hands dirty. So Lamar, okay, favorite move. What's your bread and butter, man? What's my
bread and butter?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, good old
right now.
Oh my god!
Right now, it's been bread cutter,
and
short choke.
Short choke. Oh,
yeah.
You got them nasty chokes. I got a good paper cutter. I love that one. That's one of my favorite. I love that sneaky little.
Yeah, sneaky.
Mm-hmm. They don't see it coming. My favorite submissions are throws. I like to throw them so hard.
He said my submission is
if you can get up after I throw you, after I hit you with a hip toss, then I haven't done my job. I got a real mean Osotogari. Like I get that. I set that up, and like I'm like an MLB pitcher. You know what I mean? Like when I go for that, when I break you down, and then I freaking get that leg to go. I'm like head to the ceiling. I'm like a Vegas showgirl. Like I'm gonna kick you so hard, and my toes are gonna be at the ceiling on the other side, and I just like boom, And that's actually the highest percentage takedown I have, gi or no gi. Like I get both legs, and I have big elephant legs. Like my quads are so big that it's inappropriate for it's inappropriate for audiences under 17, and like I don't skip leg day. So I feel like that's a really good one for me. But that's the grab. And then I love, but I absolutely love chokes. I think that's the best way to go, because it's going to work, and they can't stop it, and they're going to take a little nap, and it's the most humane way. I think that's the last point I'll make about jiu-jitsu. Like if I knock you out and the police come, like you're going to have physical marks from it. I'm going to look like a thug, but like really the humane way, if you have to, like, maybe someone's crazy or they're drunk or something and they just need to go take a nap.
They just need a nap. They just need a nap. That's it.
They just need a nap. Just just a little, that's it, and no one has to know, and you just lay them down nice and walk away. And so I think that's the beauty of it too, is like, I have children with autism. That's one of the reasons I live out here in the country. And I have one son who's nonverbal, and he has to be, I don't know the most politically correct way to say this. There are times that I have to physically stop him from doing the things he wants to do because they're harmful to him. Like he'll do self-harm, like he'll poke his eyes, or he'll start biting his fingers, or, he'll do things like that are self-destructive. And so I have to restrain him. And so jiu-jitsu for me allows me to do that without hurting him, but still controlling the situation. And the body awareness it's helped me develop over the years, has let me know that, okay, here's as far as I can go, and I know how this is feeling for him right now, because since I've been through being armbarred and choked and I know exactly how that pressure feels, so I know how much is too much or how much. So I feel like it's not just something you can use for violence. It's something you can use, like if you're an orderly, or you're an EMT, or you're someone who work with in those sort of inpatient programs where you have people like that, where you're going to have to restrain them. I think everybody should learn it in those programs, at least for the the controlling aspect of it, because it allows you to do it safely, just like for police officers and stuff. It allows you to do it safely, confidently, and without causing undue harm. And that is something that, as much as I love boxing and striking, I can't say that that's possible. If I hit you, you're getting hit, and I can't take that back. It's like shooting a gun. And so I think that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, is it gives you control that nothing else does. It gives you bodily awareness that nothing else does, man. And it's just a real beautiful thing. I'm so glad that I found it, and I've had the opportunity to do it under so many different coaches over the years. And I respect everyone I've ever trained with immensely. And so, we'll see where my journey takes me next. But right now I'm down for anything. Love going to different gyms. Whenever I travel for work, I train at different gyms. So I've been to most of the different places in California and Texas and Oklahoma. And I have trained in Michigan. I lived in Michigan in 2017 and 2018. And so I trained with a fighter there named Dan Sandman. And I also trained, I learned at the Point Blank Sports Club in beautiful Benton Harbor, Michigan, the jewel of the Midwest. It is a real postcard of a place, but that's where tough fighters are made, at places like Detroit and Benton Harbor. And I think there's something to the cold too, Lamar. I think people who have, what I'm talking about. It's a different kind of cold. Damn, 7 feet of snow every day. I lived on Lake Michigan, like on the lake. I could see it from my house. So I had that lake effect blowing in from the Upper Peninsula,
Well, yeah, we talked about that earlier, man. The weather has been so wild this last couple of weeks, man. But it's Michigan, man. So we fight through it.
And I can't blame you guys for trading in the gi up there, because it's cold.
Got to, man. Got to stay warm.
It's cold, man. You ain't walking. It's hot down here. Like it's hot. Like I'm like, we're all wearing. This is heavily dressed. This is an Oklahoma tuxedo right here. Like, actually, no, I'm lying. Oklahoma tuxedo. You got to have your denim vest, your boots, and your jeans, and then your hat. That is business professional Oklahoma. That is as fancy as it gets. Anything other than what?
I would say one last thing, because we got to wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Yeah.
Who are your main 3 people like you would love to roll with?
Oh my God. I want to go down to the B team, and I want to roll with Nicky Rod, and I want to roll with Craig Jones, and I want to roll with Gordon Ryan. I signed up when they were doing their invitations to invite people down to the B team, and they accepted me. And so I want to go down there and train with them and wrestle. And Gordon shared, I do a lot of like Master Ken style joke videos, stuff like that. I'm a clown. And so Gordon shared one of those on his story on Instagram. And so I got so much heat for that. Like, a lot of people took it seriously. So I got like death threats and all kinds of horrible shit. So I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank him for that bullshit. But I absolutely love. So them, I feel like they're my kind of people. I know they're going to kick my butt, but I want, I have the experience. Listen, I have always just sought out the meanest, nastiest people and then paid them to kick my butt. That is my secret to success. Everyone I've rolled with has kicked my butt from day one. Guys like Chris Brennan and Andre Metzger and, my old coach, Kurt Gibson, kicked my butt all over the mat. Dan Sandman kicked my butt all over the map. He's one of the guys who really taught me kind of like my boxy wrestling style up when I was in Michigan. He fought in King of the Cage, and he was retired by Neil Magny, who's very popular in the UFC now. But he was a tough man champion, and so he kind of got me ready. But getting my block knocked off by, this dude who looks like Steve Austin every day, like I always knew, like, I don't know if I'm going to run into anybody tougher than these guys, and I might not be able to beat them, but they sure beat a lot of people, and I know that's going to make me better off. And so that's my philosophy, man. Just find the toughest people you can and train with them. I don't care what their belt is, what their rank is. Real recognizes real. Just go and get after it. Right. And then my last person, I really want to train more. We've been on some of the same pro wrestling circuits as good old Dan Severin. We've wrestled for the same, some of the same organizations, and so I want to definitely want to train with him, and I missed the opportunity. I've trained with some of his students when I lived with him in Michigan, and they're absolutely outstanding. And so he's on my list because he's both a shooter and a worker. So that's kind of my list. And but I've already trained with some amazing folks like Carlos Machado, and some of the guys at Brazilian top team, like another Machado, Leonardo Machado. And so I feel like I've been blessed to train with lots of great black belts over the years, and I learned something from every one of them. So there you go. That is my story. That is my story, man.
That's your story, man. It's been an awesome story, man. Awesome story. But yeah, man.
Cool, brother. Cool,
I'll
brother.
definitely keep in touch with you, brother, because I would love to follow your.
Oh yeah, and when I'm up in Michigan,
brother.
when I'm up in Michigan,
if you're up in Michigan, or if I make it to Oklahoma, man, we gotta.
Oh, you gotta come to Tulsa. The food's good. It's cheap. It's fun. It's a fun place, and they'll pay you $10,000 to move here. I got $10,000 to move here through the Tulsa Remote Program. If you work remotely, you make more than $60,000 a year. They will give you $10,000 to put towards a new house, cash up front for your down payment, or you can just have it if you want to rent. They will give you an office downtown to work from, a co-working space. It's beautiful. And you get all kinds of exclusive events, benefits, networking. If you want to start a business, they will give you business coaching, access to VCs and funding and lawyers, every freaking thing you need. If you have an idea and you want to invent something or be an entrepreneur or open a gym or do something, this is the place to do it. They will put the money behind you, and they will help you. So I would highly recommend anyone who's interested in doing something great, come out to Tulsa. There's a reason all the crazy people are out here, like the Tiger King and Reservation Dogs and all this stuff. It is a unique and magical place, full of very, very weird people like myself. And so, it's a different energy for sure. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely for me. And I don't really feel like I fit in anywhere else. So I'm good with
it. I got you, my brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. But yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank my guest Tommy again for coming on and sharing some of his tales and wisdom with us, man. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. That was fun.